south end of each pew to pass the friendship registry at this time.
Many things in life are hard for me. Many things can pull us down, but by grace and love you've forgiven me, and by grace and love we are free.
What an exciting day. It's fun to hear all the chatter amongst you all and the greetings amongst you all. It's great to have all the visitors here. We've already been able to join in and witness the dedication of 2 infants. We've pledged together as a congregation to do all that we can to raise these little ones to know the love of Jesus Christ. What an awesome responsibility and commitment. In a little bit, we're going to be seeing some of our youth who were once these infants, now grown and ready to make this commitment to themselves. They're ready to make a statement. They are beginning to understand this love of Christ, and they're making a commitment to themselves to continue to not only grow themselves, but also to spread this gift to those around them. This morning I'm going to talk briefly about this gift of grace and love, and a number of ways that we see this throughout the Bible. In my opinion, these are the two of the most central themes of Jesus' ministry and should be an integral part in our own lives and ministries today. We're going to explore this by looking at one of Jesus' disciples, Peter, the rock, the one that was steadfast. And maybe when Jesus wasn't around, Peter was the leader of the disciples, the leader of this group. I'll summarize this first story. It's found in Matthew 14:22-33. Jesus and his disciples had had a long day of preaching to a large crowd. And Jesus tells his disciples to go out onto a boat and head out into the sea, and while Jesus stayed behind and dismissed the crowd and then took some time to be alone and pray. Just before dawn, he walks on the water to get out to the boat because the wind was blowing away from shore. The disciples weren't able to bring the boat back in. The disciples see him coming, and immediately they think it's a ghost coming to them across the water. And Jesus says to them, "Take courage. It is I. Don't be afraid." Peter, being the one in charge at the time, since Jesus wasn't there, looks around, and he, with some courage, says, "Prove it." So Jesus says, "Okay, walk on the water to me." Again, Peter, maybe trying to pull some rank, looks around the boat. "Hey, John, let's go. Walk on the water out to Jesus." I'm paraphrasing a little bit here. John says, "I don't think so. This was your deal." Looks around the boat again. "Thomas, let's go in the water." "I doubt it." So Peter, realizing that the others aren't going to be too eager to hop into the water, musters up his faith, steps over the edge of the boat, and walks out onto the water. Is this on? Hello? Okay, there we go. And walks out onto the water. Maybe a little cautious at first. As he's walking, gets a little more confident, stands up a little straighter. "Hey guys, I'm walking on the water." And about that moment, he starts to sink, goes down in, and realizes what he did. And he refocuses on Jesus, reaches out his hand, calls out to Jesus, and says, "Jesus, save me." Jesus reaches down, pulls Peter up, and they walk back to the boat together. It's so easy to lose focus. Jesus was there the whole time. Jesus' presence hadn't moved at all, but Peter lost focus and got distracted, maybe caught up in what he was doing on his own. But Jesus remained. If anything, he probably came closer to Peter. And he was right there, as solid as ever, for Peter to cry out to and to hold on to. Here's another example, just a quick little Piper story here. This last spring, when it was finally starting to warm up and we were able to spend some time outside, we took Piper outside, and she was running up and down the sidewalk, sitting in the front of our house on the porch there. She got a little bit further away from me, and so I called her back. I said, "Piper, come back." And so she comes running back, and then she stops. "Bee, bee, bee." I have to look. This is teeny, teeny, tiny ant. I mean, not just the black ant, but half that size, teeny tiny. How she saw it while she was running down the sidewalk, I have no idea. But she saw it, and she stopped. "Bee, bee!" And this little tiny ant starts crawling towards her. And so she's backing up, and I'm trying to get her attention. "Piper, come to Daddy. Piper, come to Daddy. Bee, bee!" She could not take her eyes off of that ant. And finally, I'm like, "Piper, Piper." And she looks up at me. I say, "Piper, come." And she kept her eyes focused on my eyes the whole time, and she was able to walk the rest of the way. It can be so easy for us to get distracted by a teeny tiny ant or a choppy, windy, rough sea. Our focus is what matters. Are we focusing on the distractions around us, or are we lifting our eyes and focusing on what really matters, and that is running into the ever-present, loving arms of Christ? The next story we're going to look at is also of Peter, and takes place at two different times. First, we're going to start in Luke chapter 22, 54 to 62. And I'll be reading out of the Message, and it will be up on the screen for you to follow along. Arresting Jesus, they marched off and took him into the house of the chief priest. Peter followed, but at a safe distance. In the middle of the courtyard, some people had started a fire and were sitting around it, trying to keep warm. One of the serving maids sitting at the fire noticed him, then took a second look and said, "This man was with him." He denied it. "Woman, I don't even know him." Short time later, someone else noticed him and said, "You're one of them." Peter replied, "Man, I am not." About an hour later, someone else spoke up, really adamant. "He's got to have been with him. He's got Galilean written all over him." Peter said, "Man, I don't know what you're talking about." At that very moment, the last word hardly off his lips, a rooster crowed. Just then the master turned and looked at Peter. Peter remembered what the master had said to him. "Before the rooster crows, you will deny me 3 times. Peter went out and cried and cried and cried. Again, Peter, the rock, can't stand like he would like to. He has no desire to deny Christ, but the situation, the pressure of everything around him, the way people were asking him and talking about him, probably with an accusatory tone or manner, it happened. Peter denied Jesus 3 times, and he was disgusted in himself, disappointed. He couldn't be the support to Jesus that he thought he would be. He cried, and he cried, and he cried. But this, however, is not the end of the story. Let's take a look. We move to John 21. Jesus has died and risen again and already appeared to the disciples and others a number